What's up, guys? My name is Leif, and you're listening to episode 48 of the Vegan Gym Podcast. My brother and I are vegan fitness coaches and bodybuilders who started this podcast as part of our mission to show the world that vegans are strong, healthy, compassionate badasses who are leading the charge against chronic disease, animal abuse, and climate change. We've had the opportunity to help thousands of vegans reach their fitness goals, but we're just getting started. Our goal is to help 1 million vegans get into the best shape of their lives. So if you believe in challenging the status quo and showing the world how badass veganism really is, then this podcast is for you. With that, I'd like to introduce my brother, my co-host for this podcast, Anders. What's going on, man?
Yo, what is going on, guys? It's been a few days since the last episode, but we've implemented what we said that we were going to do last episode, and it's been fantastic getting up and getting to the gym every single day at 0500.
Yeah.
And
it's been pretty good.
It's been really
been a little tired, but
yeah, I feel great. Like
I feel great too.
Going to bed at the right time is totally key, like we talked about last episode, and it's really nice. It's nice getting to the gym at 05, but it's also extremely nice knowing when you have to go to bed.
Right.
In order to be prepared for the next day.
Yeah.
So like going to bed at a set time, like I haven't done that in months. Like even when we were getting up at 5 before, it's like I used to like stay up and work on stuff, and I would be like, "Oh, Anders, just suck it up. You're good for the day." But now I'm just like, I need 7.5 hours of sleep, and I'm going to allot that and make sure that I get that. So bedtime 8:30, 9 p.m. every single day.
Yeah, it's funny because like every minute, like past 9 p.m., you're like looking at your phone or your watch, and you're like, "Oh man,
no," because you're
worse
thinking
and worse.
You're like, "Okay, tomorrow morning's going to suck."
Right?
Tomorrow morning,
yeah.
like,
every
I have
morning,
to get to bed.
Yeah. Every evening that you kind of tick past 9 p.m., you're like, "Oh man, like this is going to be rough.
Right.
I need to go to bed immediately."
And something that I found to be like really beneficial is like in the beginning of the week is like I like getting 7 hours of sleep, and throughout the week I add like 10 minutes to my sleep, and so you wake up even more refreshed because your body's like, "Ooh, I had more sleep today."
Yeah.
Maybe that's just mentally for me, but it helps me out.
Yeah, I mean whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly.
But the bedtime thing, like having that set thing where it's like if you go to bed past 9 p.m., it's like things are going to get progressively worse.
Right.
So you would like set that in stone. You're like, I need to go to bed by 9 p.m. And actually, I don't even think I've gone to bed before 9 p.m. over the past 4 nights, but I've still been getting up. Yeah, I need to. I know I need to. But actually, the reason I was kind of up late, 2 nights ago, because I went to go pick up my bike, which is something else I said I was going to do on the podcast, this past podcast episode, and I did it. So I ended up getting a triathlon bike. Like this is specifically for triathlons. So it's got something called aero bars, which kind of gets you into like a bent over kind of like aerodynamic position.
They look like antennas on
yeah,
a bike. It's like a giant bug.
Yeah, so it's a felt B14. I got it used, and it's in phenomenal shape. It has a carbon fiber frame. It's just like the whole thing is super light. I don't know the exact weight, but it's I picked it up when I first got it. I was like, "What? That's crazy!"
It's like literally like 5 pounds.
No, it's definitely not
10
that.
pounds.
No, I think it's like 15 or something, 17. I don't know. But anyways, like the bike is so freaking fast. I took it out just yesterday, and I was riding it around a little bit, and it's like it's kind of like scary fast.
Right.
I've had road bikes in the past, but I've never ridden something that was so light
and
smooth. so smooth, so sleek, and it's just I think it's really going to be a game changer. So
yeah, I'm good with my mountain bike.
Yeah, dude. After riding your mountain bike and riding this, it's like totally different worlds.
Yeah. And so that's something that we've been implementing as well, guys. Like I told you, I'm running and biking as well, and I found the easiest way to bike is to bike to and from the gym every single day. So instead of those 2 days I committed, I'm just going to do 7 days, and like just I don't know, all the miles add up to like 2 longer rides, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do kind of more dedicated workouts for like cardio stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just completely blow up in the race. It's
Right.
like, I know I'm going to finish it right now. Like, I could go out and do it right now, and I know I'm going to finish it, but it's just a matter of like not absolutely hating the process. Like, I kind of want to enjoy the race because I know they're really fun. Even if you're really hurting, they're really fun, but they're more and more fun the less you hurt.
See, I'm the complete opposite. I want it to hurt. Like,
I do too. I mean, it's more of a mental game than a physical game.
Right.
So that's why I kind of want it to hurt as well. And I know it will, but I don't want it to be just like absolute misery where I can't like enjoy
agony.
I don't want it to be agony where I literally can't enjoy any part of it. So anyways,
Which happened last time, right?
It kind of did. Once I got off the bike, it was complete agony. Because I got off the bike and then I realized my legs didn't work. And then I was trying to like stretch out my legs.
That's because you didn't practice biking and running at the same time, though.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I had not done a single transition.
So, guys, for any of you that don't know, like biking, even if it's 10 miles and then trying to run half a mile, like your legs feel like you're a baby fawn. Like you cannot stand up straight, well, and it's just like the weirdest feeling.
It depends how much you train.
No, this is
true.
If you go right into
not
it,
feel like a baby fawn.
The first few times.
And I think I don't even think you need the word baby. I think a fawn is just is already a baby.
Maybe a smaller fawn.
Yeah. Just a very newborn fawn. But anyways, yeah, it's like I'm looking forward to the bike portion now, and I'm not exactly certain if I'm gonna ship this bike out. We're gonna kind of see how training goes, but I've been as I said, I was riding yesterday. I'm gonna ride later today, and it's just I really enjoy biking, and I want to do more and more of that. Kind of getting into that aero position kind of freaks me out. I was doing that a little bit on the trainer yesterday, and it feels really comfortable. But then when you get that out on the road and you're like actually like picking up speed and stuff, it was freaking me out a little bit because I've done it before a few times, but I've never had a bike and like done it consistently. So
it's like a POV roller coaster.
That's pretty intense. It's pretty intense, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna fall over.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. So we got kind of lots of training coming up.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to be back on this routine, and it's just having things set in stone.
Exactly.
That's what's really exciting.
Yeah. And we're posting on stories every morning at 5 a.m. on our Instagram stories. So if you don't follow us on Instagram, it's at thevegangym. No, not .com. It's at the Vegan Gym. There's no .com in it. So you can go follow us at the Vegan Gym and hold us accountable, because the more accountability you have, the better. You guys know we're all about that.
And if you guys want to get on track too, post and tag us.
Yeah,
you know, it's
do
like
it.
We would love to show the love and get a whole community of people at 5 a.m.ers.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been posting the day, like day number whatever, like today was day 4. And then under it, I've been doing hashtag 5 a.m. workout club. So we can all join the 5 a.m. workout club. It's pretty awesome. And
people were at the gym before us this morning.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of felt like a slacker this morning.
Which is so weird.
Right. Yeah. But anyways, we go to a gym where people are pretty like, they're pretty serious about training. It's not any like kind of commercial gym where everyone just shows up and just jumps on a treadmill.
Well, and so I'm going to touch on this real quick. It's like I was talking to, they had like a Memorial Day like hangout on Sunday, and I was talking to Rick, the owner, and I was telling him how better this gym is compared to other gyms. And it, like you said, Leif, it truly comes down to just the individuals. Like, the weight stays the same, the equipment stays the same, but the people in this gym that we go to now,
the equipment's a little more cool.
That's true.
But
but the people in this gym, like, they are willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And you don't find that in commercial gyms. You find you find a few people, but other than that, you just have people that aren't as like mentally disciplined as the people that like around the gym that we go to, which is really nice because you're on the same fitness level mentally. and it's just super cool because you help each other grow.
Yeah.
And it's just like a petri dish for success.
Gross.
Well, success is a good thing.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally understand. And it really all comes down to the environment. That's why I was kind of why I touched on that in my book. I was talking about like how to bring like intensity to your training.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best ways that you can do that is by having the right environment, being surrounded by the right people in the right gym. And
never being the strongest.
yeah, always be like surrounded by people who kind of lift you up.
Exactly.
Just because they're doing things that you want to do. It's like I hear this in kind of like business all the time. It's people say like you never want to be the most successful person in the room. In fact, you want to be like the least successful,
right,
and surrounded by a ton of really successful people. So whether it's business or fitness or whatever, it's like you want to be surrounded by more people that you aspire to be, and that really can help kind of lift you up.
Yeah, it's so true. So true.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
But anyways, let's jump into the episode.
We're ranting there for a minute.
Yeah, well, kind of rambling. I don't know if that was a rant. But we've got lots to cover today, and this is a pretty cool episode. We're going to be talking about the myth of protein combining, which I'm sure you've never heard of before. This is something that every single vegan hears on maybe a daily basis, and something that we always have to be talking about and answering questions about. It's something that it's a myth because there's so many misconceptions about plant protein and the need for protein combining because plant protein is not complete, etc., etc. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about exactly why this myth is false. So if you know any people who are confused by this myth, be sure to send this episode to them, and we'll kind of sort things out.
Which should be a lot of people, all right?
Yeah, it should be a lot of people. Yeah, I know.
We need to see a spike in listeners this week.
Right. I know dozens of people who kind of are very confused about this. So let's start here and talk about what exactly is a complete protein, because in order to debunk this myth, we need to know what we're talking about. So let's start by talking about a complete protein. And quite simply, a complete protein contains all of the essential amino acids. Now, your body will take protein that you ingest, and it breaks it down into something called amino acids. It breaks it down into individual amino acids, and those are basically the building blocks of protein. Proteins are essentially long chains of amino acids. And then once your body kind of breaks those down, those amino acids can be reassembled by your DNA to form new proteins in your body that allows your body to produce things like muscle and connective tissue and enzymes and stuff like that that your body needs protein for. So there are literally hundreds of known amino acids, but only 23 of these hundreds of amino acids that we know about are what's known as proteinogenic. And proteinogenic just means that they're protein building. They are the only 23 amino acids that are biologically active in humans. So those are essentially the only ones that we need to know about. I'm sorry, there are 23 amino acids that are proteinogenic, but only 20 of those are really known as the standard amino acids. Okay, so it's not the 23. It's the 20 that are known as the standard amino acids because those are the only ones that are biologically active in humans. So we got these 20 amino acids that are biologically active in humans, and 9 of those amino acids are known as essential amino acids. Now, they're known as essential quite simply because our body cannot produce them. So we can't make these amino acids in our body. We can't synthesize, we can't create these amino acids in our body, so we have to obtain these amino acids from food. All 9 of these essential amino acids absolutely must be consumed in our food. And our body is capable of synthesizing the other 11 amino acids to kind of form that full 20 that I was talking about earlier. So we don't need to obtain those 11 from food, but we absolutely need to obtain those 9. So those 9 essential amino acids, if you care, are leucine, lysine, isoleucine, methionine, phenylalanine, histidine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine.
Say that 3 times fast.
I might. So those are the 9 essential amino acids, and all of those are the ones that we need to be kind of focusing on. You don't need to memorize all the names of them, but you just need to know that's what we're talking about. We're talking about these essential amino acids. So again, what makes a protein complete? What makes a food source kind of a complete source of protein? It is having all 9 of these essential amino acids. That is technically what makes a protein complete. So let's talk a little bit about plant protein specifically, and I want to kind of back up 100 plus years ago to when this kind of myth of protein combining really started to take hold. It was first introduced in 1909 by a biochemist called Carl Ritthausen. So he formed this theory that really plant-based diets don't provide sufficient amounts of essential amino acids, and he decided therefore that it's necessary to combine these plant proteins together to kind of get the same complete protein source that you would get from meat, dairy, or eggs. So that's kind of where it was first introduced. And another study shortly thereafter, about 5 years later in 1914, it was a study conducted by researchers at Yale. And these researchers suggested kind of the same idea that plant-based protein is incomplete. But the research was actually conducted on infant rodents, and it really kind of lacked context, and it wasn't a very well-designed study. So these two things, the biochemist who kind of formed this theory in 1909 and these researchers at Yale in 1914, those were kind of the first 2 documented cases of the start to this myth, where people were talking about plant-based proteins being inferior to animal-based proteins. So that's where it kind of really started, but the theory was not very well known at the time. They didn't have like PubMed or the internet to kind of like spread this stuff easily. So the myth of protein combining really started to kind of take hold and gain widespread popularity in 1954 with the publication of Adele Davis's book, Let's Eat Right to Keep Fit. So that was kind of the first really widespread documentation, introduction to the public with this myth of the need to kind of combine proteins. And this whole myth really gained even more steam in 1971 when a guy named Francis Leif published the best-selling book Diet for a Small Planet, which basically kind of echoed the same idea. It was this idea about the need to combine proteins. And then Vogue and the American Journal of Nursing kind of also published about this myth in the mid-1970s. So that was kind of the point where, at least in America, we started getting really obsessed about protein, especially kind of protein quality and the need to focus on like animal products in our diet to get enough protein. And obviously, the meat, dairy, and egg industries grabbed hold of that and just ran with it. And they were very happy to kind of perpetuate that myth even further. So in 1981, actually, Lepe actually published a revised version of her book, and she actually completely changed her position on protein combining, and she actually apologized for kind of reinforcing that myth at all. But it was too late at that point. Nobody really heard kind of this revision and apology. They just kind of focused on the initial publication and everything that kind of the meat, dairy, and egg industries were working on kind of picking up and running with. So
just brushing it under the rug a little bit.
Yeah, they brushed the apology under the rug and just kind of like proclaimed like plant proteins
at least she did that
inferior.
Though, you know, it's like a lot of people don't like, especially scientists, they don't like to like own up to their mistakes.
Yeah, that's true. So in 2002, Dr. John McDougall actually issued a correction to the American Heart Association, which had published information about protein combining. The American Heart Association was saying, hey, you need to combine proteins and stuff. Plant protein is kind of inferior. You can still get all the protein you need, but you need to combine different proteins like beans and rice and stuff. And Dr. John McDougall was like, yo, like, that's not right.
Chill.
Yeah, so he kind of asserted that this earlier research about plant-based protein was misleading, and he really kind of wanted to kind of push that back into kind of the public eye. So he actually wrote the American Heart Association, and he said, quote, "It is impossible to design an amino acid deficient diet based on the amounts of unprocessed starch and vegetables sufficient to meet the calorie needs of humans." So in other words, as long as you eat enough calories to survive, enough calories to meet your energy needs, I should say, it's really impossible to design an amino acid deficient diet. So that's what he was talking about in this response to the American Heart Association. Now, Dr. John McDougall is kind of all about kind of like a starch-based diet, something like potatoes or something like that, and that's certainly healthy. You can certainly do that. You know that we kind of we lean more in kind of the direction of a high-protein, high-carb diet. That's not necessarily just like starches and vegetables and stuff, but you're combining more kind of quality vegan protein sources. So that's kind of what we're all about. But the same thing stands. It's like, if you can get enough protein on potatoes, you can get enough protein on tofu and broccoli and stuff like that. So he then kind of continued by saying, quote, "Furthermore, mixing foods to make a complementary amino acid composition is unnecessary. To wrongly suggest that people need to eat animal protein for nutrients will encourage them to add foods that are known to contribute to heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and many forms of cancer, to name just a few common problems."
Mic drop.
So, yeah, exactly. Like, that's, I mean,
like,
that's,
how do you even come back from that?
yeah, and then the American Heart Association is like, oh, like, yeah.
It's like, let's just brush this under the rug.
So, and that was one thing that John McDougall was kind of talking about in response to the American Heart Association. But if we back up just a little bit to 1994, the myth of protein combining, the myth of needing to actually mix plant proteins together to form complete proteins, was officially debunked by researchers at the Clinical Research Center at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, better known as MIT around the world, and obviously a very kind of well-established university and research center. So it's really generally recognized now in the scientific community that you do not need to combine plant proteins to really get complete proteins in your body. So your body can actually store amino acids for later use, and that's why it doesn't really matter to combine proteins. So this idea that you need to eat beans and rice at the same time to form complete proteins is really kind of like discounting how intelligent your body actually is.
Right.
Because your body's like, okay, give me some rice in the morning, give me some beans at night or something. I'm gonna create these pools of amino acids in the body, and I'm going to be able to tap into those for future use. And I can combine these different amino acids that you're consuming throughout the day to really fuel muscle growth and everything else that your body needs protein for. So as long as you eat kind of like an array of foods throughout the day, you're going to fill in any of these amino acid gaps. So you do need kind of like a certain amino acid profile for optimal muscle growth. And then that conversation starts getting more into this whole idea of protein quality, which is something that we talked about before. It was episode 24 of the podcast where we talked about that. So you can definitely go check that out. But the whole idea of needing to combine proteins is completely wrong. So all vegan foods contain every single one of the essential amino acids. that is really what you need to know, and that's what you can tell other people who are like, wait, you need to eat beans and rice or whatever. That's like the classic example.
And if they call you a liar, just bring them to this podcast.
Yeah. So literally every single vegan food, every plant food, every vegetable, legume, fruit, whatever, all of those contain every single one of the essential amino acids. Now, I will say that most of these vegan foods don't contain the ideal proportions of these different amino acids necessary for optimal muscle protein synthesis, which is the process of muscle growth. It's how your body creates new muscle. That's why kind of people generally say, hey, vegan protein sources are kind of incomplete because they don't necessarily have kind of the ideal amino acid profile. But like I just said earlier, your body can actually store these different amino acids for later use when they can be combined in the right formations and proportions. So actually, that was something that Dr. Michael Greger of nutritionfacts.org, who you probably know, he kind of explained that concept in a recent post. He said, quote, talking about your body and how it handles protein. He said, quote, it maintains pools of free amino acids that can be used to do all the complementing for us. Not to mention the massive protein recycling program our body has. Some 90 grams of protein is dumped into the digestive tract every day from our own body to get broken back down and reassembled. So our body can mix and match amino acids to whatever proportions we need, whatever we eat. So he's like, your body can store all these things. It can also recycle protein in your body. So that's not something you need to worry about. So the whole idea of protein combining is really it just kind of like pushes you in the wrong direction because it's totally unnecessary to think about protein that way, and it's just flat out wrong. So it really turns out that there is no such thing as incomplete plant-based protein. As I said, every single vegan protein source, every single vegan food, so every plant food contains all of the essential amino acids. Literally every single nutrient that we get is either from the soil in the form of like plants and stuff, or from the sun for vitamin D. And when people eat animal products, they are, let's say you eat like a burger or something, and you eat, and obviously that comes from a cow. So where does the cow get all these amino acids if they don't come from plants? Right. It's like all a cow eats is plants, and any other
if
animal,
they ate someone else, I'd be a little terrified.
Yeah, and even if you did eat some animal that ate other animals and not just like plant foods, then what did those other animals that animal ate eat? I think that makes sense. It's like, no, it makes sense. It always gets tracked back to what comes out of the soil. It's like everything comes out of the soil, so everything comes from plant foods. It all originates from plant foods. So we don't just, like, animals don't just magically create amino acids out of thin air. It's like those components need to come from something, and they all originate from the ground. They all originate from the soil in the form of plants. So there is literally no incomplete plant protein source. So, in fact, actually, this is a good point. The only incomplete protein in the entire food supply is gelatin, which lacks a single amino acid.
So gross. So
yeah, obviously gelatin is gross. It's an animal product, so we're probably nobody on this podcast even eats it. Nobody who listens to this podcast eats gelatin, but the whole point is that the only incomplete protein source in the entire food supply is actually an animal-based protein source. Yeah. So, like, it's yeah. The whole point here is that zero vegan foods are technically incomplete protein sources. But as I also said, that does not mean that every single vegan food has an ideal amino acid profile for muscle and strength gains. That's kind of a different conversation, okay? We're saying that everything from bananas to tofu, to broccoli, to potatoes, whatever, all of those contain every single one of the 9 essential amino acids. However, that doesn't mean that that if you just eat bananas all day, you're going to be able to gain tons of muscle and be super fit. Like, maybe that will work for you and you can be like a really good endurance athlete or something if you're just like a fruitarian or something, but that doesn't, first of all, I don't recommend that, for one, but for two, that's not going to give you the optimal kind of amino acid profile for muscle and strength development. So that's really where protein quality comes in, which, as I said before, if you want to learn more about vegan protein quality, you can check out episode 24, which is titled Why Vegan Protein Quality Matters. Or you could also grab a free copy of my new book, Vegan Fat Training Secrets, which goes into even more detail than that podcast episode about protein quality. And you can kind of see everything listed out in, I've got some tables and I reference all of the studies, so you can kind of go into more detail and learn really as much as you want about vegan protein quality, which is a very interesting subject. So I'm happy to talk about it anytime.
Where can they get the book though?
Veganshredding.com. Super easy.
It's like, yeah, you can get my book, but I'm not going to tell you where it is.
Well, I was actually going to touch on that in just a minute.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's
we're going to touch on it twice.
So, anyways, that's going to be a wrap for this podcast. If you know anybody who's like struggling with this whole idea of like protein combining and they're saying, hey, you need to eat rice and beans. If you hear the next person you hear say, hey, you need to eat rice and beans, direct them to this episode.
I see it so often in the vegan bodybuilding Facebook group pages. I need to stay away from those pages just because of some of the comments. It's like you can't combat them all.
No, you can't. That would be a full-time job.
Right.
It's like there's so much misinformation out there. That's why we do this podcast. That's why I wrote this book. That's why I'm just going to keep talking about all this stuff, because what most people are telling you, even in the vegan world, like even vegans are perpetuating this myth.
Yeah.
It's like, first of all, it's wrong. Second of all, it certainly doesn't help anybody want to go vegan.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, you go vegan, but there are tons of like issues because you need to eat rice and beans at the same time.
Here's a list of 1,000 things that you have to implement.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's pretty simple. It's like eat plant foods, not too much, and eat enough protein and like
and move.
Lift some weights. Yeah, move your body. It's like those are our rules.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like pretty simple. Obviously you can get a little more complex if you're trying to really dial things in and like achieve like serious fitness goals or strength goals or whatever. Like obviously you can take that to a different level and really kind of like hone things in. But if you're just looking to like stay in good shape and just like, well, survive for one, but then like kind of stay in good shape, it's like the things you need to follow are super simple.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this podcast. If you found this episode to be super valuable, which I really hope you did, please go ahead and show your support by subscribing to the podcast and also leaving a review. And as I said, if you want to learn literally every single thing that you would possibly need to know about vegan protein, please take a few minutes right now to go grab a free copy of my brand new book, Vegan Fat Training Secrets. Yes, I said free copy of Vegan Fat Training Secrets. And you can go grab your free copy at veganshredding.com. There's a link in the show notes as well. So again, that's veganshredding.com. So until next time, keep challenging the freaking status quo. Peace, love, and gains, everyone. And we'll talk soon. See ya.